Thank you so much. A somnambulist, someone who sleepwalks, is someone who walks in their sleep. But a professor is someone who talks when other people are sleeping. So I have no problem at all in addressing this post-lunch session. I want to tell you a little bit about how this book came into being. Recently, the Australian National Library took all of Lance Armstrong's books and moved them to the fiction section. When I read the books written on entrepreneurship in India, it seems to me, even when they are about real people, they actually are works of fiction. Because for two reasons. Either the book portrays the entrepreneur as a superhuman figure, or the book makes it appear as if entrepreneurship is the easiest thing that you could ever do. The truth, unfortunately, as always, lies somewhere in between. And so this book, which I've written, Startup Sutra, is an attempt to portray both the agony and the ecstasy of being an entrepreneur in India. This particular panel discussion, I'm really privileged to have the protagonists of the book with us today to be part of this panel discussion. I'll invite them first from ECHO, Abhishek Sinha. I think it's best if you introduced yourself, so I won't introduce you. Also from ECHO, Abhinav Sinha. And from the Indo-Korean Foundation and A Passage to India, Moojin Chung. So without further ado, I'll start with you, Abhishek. Why don't you introduce ECHO and say a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Rohit. Thanks a lot for having me here. I have spoken at a lot of forums in the last 10 years of my entrepreneurial journey. The first time in the presence of my wife and my parents. So I'm really nervous. And so I started my journey in 2002. I used to work for Satyam Computer Services at Hyderabad. And with a colleague from Satyam started a telecom software company. Ran that till 2007, and then started a company called ECHO with Abhinav as my co-founder, and we also happen to be brothers. And ECHO is into branchless banking. Basically, with the help of a cell phone, we are able to convert retail shops into banking outlets. So you can absolutely go into such outlets and open a bank account for yourself. And these outlets also morph themselves into ATMs or human ATMs. And you can do your cash in, cash out money transfer transactions. So that's what we do. That's what we have been doing since 2007. So yeah, that's a little brief on ECHO.
Good afternoon. Abhishek's done half the introduction. I guess I'll leave it to Rohit to take us through a few questions and discussions here. And I guess we'll give it our best shot to share what we've experienced in our journey of building ECHO in the last 5 years.
Hi, I'm from Korea, and my English is very little, so better to let Rohit introduce myself. Thank you.
Okay, I think all these panelists have been extremely modest. I just want to give you a few statistics. ECHO has tie-ups with 2,000 retail outlets. It has about 20 million customers, about $1 million of transactions a day, and about $2 billion of transactions overall till date. Or maybe it's 20 billion. Anyway, they've reached a point where numbers are now don't mean anything anymore. So they've done absolutely great stuff. Moojin came to India to become a sadhu in 1989. And somewhere along the way, he decided he didn't know whether he was an entrepreneur who wanted to become a sadhu or a sadhu who wanted to become an entrepreneur. So he became both. Abhishek has been part of three startups. The first one was called bhulnajana.com. The second one was called, and that broke up without getting off the ground. The second one was called 6D, and that achieved a lot of success, but the founders fell apart. And the third startup that he has is called Echo, as he said, and that's with his brother Abhinav. And rumors tell me that the only communication between Abhinav and Abhishek is on account of the fact that Abhinav likes the banana and chocolate cake that Mekhla makes, okay, Abhishek's wife. So, an eminently worthy panel to discuss the important subject of the interpersonal relations of founders. I hope you will agree with me. Now, I want a show of hands. How many people think that the most important challenge facing a startup is the idea, the quality of the idea? Show of hands. Okay, fair number of people believe that it's the quality of the idea. How many feel that it is the quality of the execution? Even more. So I think there's a majority here for that. How many feel that it's the funding that a startup raises? Now we have more respondents than the number of people in the room. So somebody is cheating. Okay. Nobody thinks, how many people think that interpersonal relations between founders and between the founders and the early team members is important? Everything is important. So everyone has raised their hands, right? So the first thing I'm going to ask the panel is, how important are the interpersonal dynamics and what do they impact? You have...
It's absolutely the key. If you are not chasing the same dream, and dreams need to be broken down into materialistic milestones, both business and personal. So if Abhinav's chasing a BMW and I'm chasing a Maruti, we are bound to part ways. And so if it is not one dream which is connecting us, both materialistic as well as what we wish to achieve in our organization, we'll just fall apart.
Okay. Abhinav?
I guess the manner in which I see is that, there's a lot of books which are written about team. I guess in Echo we are the first team, and it's got to work at this point. If it does not work between the two of us, it's very difficult to take it forward. So I guess, at least for the two of us, it's very important the team starts here. It needs to work, and once it starts to work in here, it's all the more easier to get a lot more people onto the fold to chase what we are chasing. It's a lot easier.
So how do you get it to work? How do you get it to work? And especially being siblings or being spouses or being close friends. Peter Drucker said that it's far better to have a friendship founded on business, rather than a business founded on friendship. And as another great management thinker, Dilbert, said, in business, friendship sucks. And family sucks big time. And spouses are almost as bad as outsourcing. So how do you get it to work?
How does this work? I guess, like Abhishek said, we've got to see the same dreams. So I get up in the night and I exchange notes with him. Is he seeing the same dreams than I do? That's to start off with. I guess it starts with lot of talking. I guess because what's extremely important is that there are certain dreams, there are certain, or let's not even say dreams. Let's say certain achievements where we wish to take the organization, and each one of us reacts in a slightly different way to a particular situation than the other person sitting next to us. And what's very important is to have a chat at that point in time to figure out that, is my way or his way, is it the common way, or is it that the two of us have to get onto the, do I need to get on to his way or he needs to get on to my way? It's important to understand that. So I guess it's a lot to do with lot of talking. And so one thing that I do share with my team is that the two of us, and especially I take this a lot more on myself, is that I get the opportunity to speak with Abhishek a lot more than anybody else does in the team, because we both live in Gurgaon, so we come to the office together, we go back to home together. And so yes, a lot happens, once we are able to express, once we are able to communicate, and simply communication just needs a lot of time for us to be able to exchange ideas, talk, and share our inhibitions, anxieties. And the other one's able to, maybe at times calm it down, maybe able to complement it. And I guess that then it starts to build up.
But with the kind of closeness that entrepreneurs have to go through, the kind of intimacy, working together 24/7 in closed workspaces under very stressful conditions, don't you get on each other's nerves?
That's a big disclosure for my folks now. Absolutely. And absolutely cutthroat. But I'll tell you, while I hear what you have said about friends getting into business and stuff like that, I think, and it's where I have found comfort. Even in my previous startup, I founded the company with colleagues and friends, and here with my younger brother.
As they are called, they are emotionally supported by spouses, by significant others, by close friends. And in a sense, a startup is founded by all of them. And so I'd like you to talk about the relationship between a founder of a company and a formal founder of a company and an informal founder of a company who may be a spouse or a father or a father-in-law. Of course, the book has an amazing interaction between you and your father-in-law. I want to share at this point that Abhishek's father-in-law was the one person who opposed his startup from the very beginning, and yet was also the person who supported him whenever he went to ask him for help. So he was simultaneously supporting him and opposing him tooth and nail. Right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. In 2002, when I started my first company, 6D, so we used to travel from Hyderabad, and our first set of customers were based out of Jaipur. And so people from Hyderabad did not know what's winters of North. And so a couple of my colleagues landed in Delhi. We could not afford a guest house or a hotel. So they were staying at my parents' place. That used to be the place. And my mother discovered that my colleagues did not have warm clothes. And so she went to the market and got them some warm clothes. The fact that they were absolutely open to allowing my colleagues, absolutely unknown to them, to come and stay at their place. And so that's one. Second, you mentioned about my father-in-law. Of course, it becomes very tricky if you have to marry off your only daughter to an entrepreneur. And especially when he was financially well-to-do. So there were lot better options available to him and to Mekla. But absolutely, I will acknowledge the contribution of my parents, my wife, my father-in-law. Again, a set of people whom I have absolutely taken for granted, and these are I have very few set of people whom I can absolutely take for granted and treat them very shabbily, and get them to support me.
So an entrepreneur has the an entrepreneur has to have the ability to take people for granted. People who matter most to them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah, I think as individuals, we all need anchors. And emotional anchors are very important in life. You know, where does individual draw their strength from? Where do Abhinav and I look forward to when we step out of Echo? Where do we wish to get to? And where do you get to, you know, where do you show off your bravery? If you have lost in the outside world, where do you show off your bravery? And you absolutely turn to people who are your anchors, who are your emotional anchors. And my parents and my wife and my father-in-law, Abhinav, are absolutely my emotional anchors.
Okay. I want to just shift the conversation a little bit. In the early days, it's the honeymoon period, as you said. So your friends landed up at your parents' house. You know, you took it for granted that your parents would give them the same hospitality as they gave to you. They moved into your parents' apartment, and of course there was no question of any rent being asked for and so on. But, and so there's, you know, that's the stage where you have not a single paisa in your pocket and not a care in the world. You're closer than siblings, right? In the early days of the company. But there's also certain material aspects related to the things like the shareholders agreement, who is contributing how much to run the company in those days. And most often, founders don't pay any attention to those things. And quite often, these things come to bite them later on, when the honeymoon period is over. Would you agree with that? How important is it to base your relationship on very firm contractual foundations?
Extremely important. I think, you know, when the times are bad and when the times are tough, and mostly, you know, one ends up with people who have their heart on the right side. You have a lot of support and people really rally together when it's the toughest of times. It's only when those times pass by, you know, the organization gets into a stage of scaling, things are a lot more better financially, that some of these things then start to bite. Especially if the expectations have not been set. Especially if the early team members or the founders haven't had that chat, it is absolutely bound to happen. And really that chat is all about expectation setting. It's all about completely talking through that are we chasing the same thing or not. And in my previous organization, I've absolutely faced that. I had to part ways with my closest of friends.
So let's come down to that conversation. Let's come down to that conversation that you were talking about, that every founding team needs to have, right? I've come across entrepreneurs who've actually, those conversations have completely broken down, with one entrepreneur telling another that, you know, I got the idea, so I deserve to get 60% of the company.
To pay for the minimum capitalization. So it was absolutely on paper. My father introduced me to a chartered accountant who charged us some very reasonable sum of money, and the company got incorporated. And we were 4 founders, 2 who were always sleeping and never came around. And there were 2 of us who actually jumped in full time. And you know, so yes, there was never any conversation around who's going to put how much, who's going to be valued for the money, how much will that get valued at, who will get valued for the idea. Because everybody just keeps pushing in, and all of us in 6D paid a price for it, you know, because in the long term, everything is great. But when you start to break that long term into the first 2 years, into the first 5 years, and so on and so forth, and you say, okay, 20 years we'll all be at this particular shareholding, but where do we start from? And that's a tough question which we absolutely evaded when we were doing 60. Thankfully, we had very sane advice in 2007 from a senior gentleman who said that we must get into a prenup, and got us to sign a founders agreement, which laid out very good ground rules. And it is my sincere recommendation to all entrepreneurs that absolutely put in place a founders agreement.
Abhinav, any comments?
Yeah, I would just add a few more stories to what Abhishek's told. One is that, it wasn't as difficult as it sounds that Abhishek's making. It was a lot easier in 60. In 60, at least after the founders, we also got a little bit of equity. It was based on who attended office as much as how regular were we to office, and not regarding who gave the idea. So it was a lot simpler. So the people who attended office more often got more equity. And so it was a lot simpler. And why I say it was a lot simpler is because in 2004, 2005, honestly, at that point in time, speaking for myself, I would not know the spelling of entrepreneur. And I would not understand what a venture capitalist would be. And while the times have changed a lot, and now I see people out of college understanding some of these things, which is great. So times have changed, and I guess this was a lot more amateurish, a lot more novice at the time when Abhishek started, or when we joined Abhishek in 2004, 2005. And can't second more Abhishek on the fact that that's extremely important to have a founders agreement. It's extremely important, again, to make sure that there's enough conversation and enough chatting before a founders agreement is signed up. And I guess it's also, like you had mentioned, I think it's also very important for founders, whether it's 2, whether it's 4, or how many there is to understand that it's not a 50-50 partnership. It's important for organizations, founders to answer between themselves as to who's the lead entrepreneur, and structure at least the initial couple of things around the lead entrepreneur. It helps in building the foundation of the company correctly. And I guess, like Abhishek mentioned, thanks to the sound advice, we followed some of these principles, and the foundation of Echo, thankfully, is a lot more stronger in terms of how Abhishek and his colleagues would have started 60.
Great. Now I'd like to move on from the early days of setting the foundation and getting your first success to the second phase, where you start seeing some success. And you made a very interesting comment, Abhishek, that actually the kind of conflicts, the potential conflicts, grow when you start seeing success. Because before that, all of you are desperately seeking that first success, and after that, when you see that first success, then things can start unraveling. In fact, your own story is demonstrates this particular phenomenon in terms of what happened to you at 6D. If you don't mind, I'd like to read from the book at this point. With your permission, I'd like to read a small section from the book Startup Sutra. This is called Ambushed. And this describes what happened at 6D, the previous company that Abhishek and Abhinav were part of. In 2006, Bijoy Khandelwal, the investor, began to look for the acquisition of a telecom product company that would be a synergistic fit with IRG services business. 6D appeared to be a natural choice. Khandelwal broached the idea to the main shareholders, Abhishek, Abhilash, Manish, and Ravi. 3 years into the company, 6D's leadership was beginning to get weary of the constant fight for cash flow. Abhilash was seeing a girl and thinking of getting married. Manish Chandra and Manish Arora had got married. Abhishek had just been blessed with his first baby. Ravi, who was slightly older in age, was eager to get some stability into his life. Bijoy seemed to have captured the general mood of the group when he said, "You guys have struggled for so long. It's time for you to settle down, buy a house, car, get comfortable." But one founder was not ready to sell. Abhishek. "There is no synergy," he said. "IRG is a services company and has a completely different DNA from 6D. The question of a merger does not arise." Looking back, Abhishek says, "We did not have any money. My personal bank balance was not more than rupees 100. But I was not prepared to merge with IRG. I did not want to lose my company. I wrote to every VC in India and in the US, but whoever I approached told me the same thing. You guys have nothing new. You are a Me Too company. One of Abhishek's heroes is Mahatma Gandhi. He has watched the Richard Attenborough movie umpteen times and watches every movie about Gandhi that comes out. For him, Gandhi's story is all about entrepreneurship. He says, Gandhi had a belief in non-violence that most of the world could not relate to. His belief that he could win India's freedom through non-violence defied logic. But he hung in there. He persevered. That, to me, is what entrepreneurship is all about. In 2006, in the face of disbelief, outrage, imminent financial ruin, and crumbling friendships, Abhishek refused to budge from his belief that merging with IRG was wrong for 60. Abhinav too did not want to sell. I was the boss of a successful product line which was getting good traction in the market. Why sell at this stage? By the end of 2006, work had virtually stopped. All that was being discussed was the proposed deal with IRG. Meetings of the founders were called. The senior shareholders tried to cajole, persuade, threaten, and implore Abhishek, but he was intransigent. The employee shareholders too found it more productive to hold meetings when the junior Sinha was not in office. These two brothers have their own agenda. It began to be said. The brothers have lost touch with reality. Abhishek has become possessive about his startup and Abhinav about his product. People who had stuck together through thick and thin now found themselves unable to look each other in the eye. Bijoy Khandelwal watched the unfolding drama and waited for it to settle. When things were not getting resolved internally, he began winning over the shareholders one by one. All except Abhishek and Abhinav. When he had won over the rest, he called a meeting with Abhishek also present. Actually, it was not a meeting. It was an ambush. So that's the story from 6D. So you talked about getting the ambition on the same page, right? How do you make that happen? Do you have visioning sessions? Do you cajole, negotiate? How does that happen?
Absolutely. I think you got to talk a lot. And I think one of the fundamental things which did not go right with me and 60 was the fact that I was based out of Delhi looking at sales, while my larger team was based out of Bangalore. And hence I did not get as much opportunity to talk to my other founders, partners, colleagues. And somewhere I think the Delhi office and the Bangalore office, and the Delhi office had hardly 2-3 people, started to have very different DNAs. And it cost me heavy at the end of the day. So it's very important to talk. It's very important to set tangible milestones. So it's great for Abhinav and I to say that, yeah, we'll go and get ourselves Beamers in the next 5 years, but what do we do in the next 6 months? What do we do after 1 year? You know, and when we talk through that, it's very important to talk through milestones. Rarely do milestones happen in the right manner, or rarely do forecasts come correct. It takes a lot of time to get there. So yeah, we wanted a certain number of customers and transactions to happen in the first year, the second year, the third year, and so on and so forth. None of them have happened as yet. But at least there was the fact that we jointly put in a certain number was a reflection that we were chasing the same thing. Whether he accepted my numbers which I proposed, or the other way, or we discussed and came to that number, was a reflection of the fact that there was discussion in trying to put together a common milestone. And that's important.
What do I add to this one? Looking back, looking back.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You both are not the only founders of Echo. Right? You both are not the only founders of Echo. So how do you manage the relationship between the two of you and the others, given the fact that some of the others may perceive you as a team, like your co-founders in 60 perceived you? Abhinav.
Uh, in Echo, we were four co-founders. Unfortunately, two of them have left, and so it's easy to manage both of us now. But as far as if I recollect days, when all four of us were there, I guess the element of Abhishek and I being brothers was not present at all. At least when we stepped into Echo, it wasn't an element which was present even to a %. Because I guess the luxury that we had when we had started Echo was we worked a little bit together in 60. So we knew what role I need to play at my place and what I need to do at work. So as far as the brother dynamics was concerned, it was a lot easier to handle in Echo than in 60. I had bigger issues in 60s with Abhishek than I have in Echo, and because that was a little bit new to me to handle. And so as far as your question of managing the dynamics between founders are concerned, I guess the brother dynamics just did not play there. And I guess between the four of us, we were lucky to have a senior gentleman amongst us. And he could, in some sort of manner, guide us, moderate us in a certain direction. And looking back, some of those things were very right. For example, he helped us structure the founders agreement. He helped us structure the equity patterns that were held by the four founders at the beginning. He helped us also structure the manner in which we divided work amongst ourselves. And so yeah, that helped a lot.
So did you actively go and pursue this senior gentleman to become a founder because you felt he would be a good addition to the founding team?
I guess the answer to that question is we got lucky. Because at the time when we were actually leaving 60 was, Abhishek and I had participated in a business plan competition, which was organized by Ty and Kanan Partners. And this was late 2006, and we had presented Echo. And fortunately, we managed to win that business plan competition. And people who actually looked at that competition and the payment space that we were in, so we got introduced to this senior gentleman by the name of Mr. Sanjay Bhargav, who had an experience of close to about 20 years in Citibank. Then he was with X.com, which got acquired by PayPal. And so he had come out of PayPal and was an angel investor in India. And he was looking at payment space, and we had got off this business plan competition, having won that competition. So it was more like that, we were just probably supposed to meet. And we met, and we did spend a couple of sessions with him to understand what the payment space could be in India like. And yeah, that's how we went. So initially, we got lucky in getting introduced to him, and I guess then it was a lot of our correspondence and conversations with him which probably attracted him to join us and become a part of the initial founding team.
Okay. To close this panel discussion, I want to shift the focus from the material to the philosophical. And what I get a sense of is that getting the right relation between founders is not easy. It can stretch you in every direction: emotional, intellectual, professional, financial, which is why both of you are as tall as you are, I believe. So it's not an easy relation by any standard. And yet, I think it can be navigated if one takes a philosophical approach to the problem. And so here I would like to bring in Mujin. Somebody, you said that you got lucky in meeting Sanjay Bhargav. And I got very lucky in meeting Mujin when I was, in college. There are these movies where young wannabe karate champions meet these East Asian grandmasters who speak in a language they can't understand but who have all the wisdom in the world, right? How many of you have seen these movies? The Karate Kid, right? So Mujin came into my life. I was the karate kid and he was Mr. Miyagi, right? And today you're going to experience what I experienced. And you're going to understand as little of what he says as I understood. But still, I think you'll enjoy it. So, Mujin, I'm going to ask you,
Then there's only one way I can manage myself. Let it up, let it go.
so how does one practice this wisdom of not wanting to be a winner and not trying to avoid losing? How does one practice this? Because everyone wants to win and everyone wants not to lose.
Yeah, I come to India to practice. And you say, I come to India to practice, to control myself. And at a certain level, I have given up to control myself. So the more I try to control myself, I become more strong. My ego and my everything is become more strong. I cannot handle it. And as a being, or human being, today
once we had the founders agreement in place. So that's my advice.
I could very well relate. Actually, I am Prabhat and my brother Prashant is other co-founder for our company. So it's been 6 years now. We are into cloud space now, lot of productive applications that we are offering. Now, I really wish I could have brought my brother Prashant also